What we're gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about this one time where basically I locked myself inside for a week, and I'm gonna tell you why and like what the fuck really went down. Now, I said it in my last video, I respect people who have done time on the inside, because people who have done time on the inside have learned to do the most with the least. Or if you can't do the most with the least and adapt to that circumstance, you end up breaking and becoming a shitty character, you feel me? So all of my OGs that I've ever looked up to, you feel me, have done some time, you feel me? And that's not to glorify going inside. Most people, they feel like they gotta prove themselves and earn some stripes and do some time up top or do some time in the feds, you feel me? Real people know you learn from, and the wisest people learn from other people's mistakes, you feel me? I remember certain times I'd be on the block with some of my homies, and I'm like, damn, I'm the only person that didn't go to camp, you feel me? They're like, bro, you don't want to do that. Everybody who ever went inside is like, yo, bro, you don't want to do that, you feel me? So pay attention to the media and all that other shit. Don't think I'm trying to glorify that, but I'm extracting the essence of the principle that it is to be deprived of your freedom and that mental strength that you have to then start to build, or you perish, you feel me? So with all these influences, like even a little background story, what happened is I used to watch a lot of documentaries of people in prison on Netflix, like prison documentaries. Shouts out to Julia, Cutstown, PA, what up? They know what the vibes is, you feel me? I really used to have people sit back and watch. Why? Because it's just a certain level of reality. It's a certain level of actual shit going down, actual human interaction that I don't think most people in civilian life will ever be able to even maybe empathize with or understand. You see what I'm saying? So let me get to the point. So after all of that, that's just the context to let y'all know where I'm really stemming from and where this all came from. You feel me? It's a long story made short, but this was what happened back in 2020 around October. I decided to lock myself in the crib. So I stacked up on food, I stacked up on resources, and I did not leave the crib at all for a whole week straight. I had phone time, 1 hour maybe, you feel me? And I'm gonna get to that maybe in a second. But I had 23 hours of just no internet, no Wi-Fi, just me in the crib with some weights, the floor. And why I did that, why did I do that, was because I needed to test myself against distractions. So what most people like to do is blame a whole milieu, a whole gamut, a whole range of different circumstances as to why they can't complete the things they know that will get them to the next level. So what I did was lock myself in the crib for a week, turned off the Wi-Fi, locked myself in, no outside world, 1 hour phone maybe, right? And all I am is left to my own devices. You see what I'm saying? So I can never say that that's like really being in the feds or being in the segregated situation or in the hole. But for me, that was solitary refinement. You feel me? I confined myself to myself, and I chose to refine myself and see my mind. And boy, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to really sit there and see how your motivation wanes out and see which direction you're gonna go in, or are you gonna crack, or are you gonna try to know? You staying in the crib and you staying to yourself, and the only things you really need to do, young Sheikhy, is do the work. You have so much background work to do on your computer. You have so many ideas to put into action. You got so much, you see what I'm saying? So many people choose to willingly distract themselves on the regular. Habitually distract themselves, and then habitually create alibis and habitually create all of these convenient excuses as to why they can't just not do everything else in the world, right? And do the one thing that's gonna get them to the next level. I'm a victim of that. That's why I chose to lock myself in that way. You feel me? So fast forward, I'm in the crib. The main things that I took away from that situation was, it's just you and you, big bro. What do you need to do? You need food and protein, there it is. But you got work to do. You got work to do. And once you come face to face with yourself in that way, you realize it's not about doing anything, it's actually about what you choose to exclude. Back to the idea of the process of elimination. There's a million things that you could do, and there's usually one thing that you should do. But people choose to get caught up in the millions of things that they could do when there's one thing that they really should do. And then they enter, because they don't like to have a sense of morality or a sense of accountability to themselves, because that leaves them in a space of, childish, irreprehensible states of mind. You feel me? No. Reprehend yourself. Reprimand yourself. You feel me? Like, you have to hold yourself to a certain standard if you ever expect to get to the next step. You see what I'm saying? So instead of doing all of the millions of things in the world that are there to be done, if you want to, start to do the things you know you should. And it's not easy. Why? Because you're so used to seeking comfort. You're so used to seeking pleasure. You're so used to leaking your attention in this way and that way, right? That when it's just you and the work, you realize, oh, this is what discipline feels like, right? So we locked ourselves in for a week. You feel me? There's a secret mixtape that I recorded that week that when it drops, the people who have watched this video will know ahead of time that mixtape exists. You feel me? But we locked ourselves in, cut off access. And the funny thing is, about that 1 hour of phone call, I got on the phone for a little bit just to get on Instagram and connect with people or whatever the fuck. But sometimes you don't even want to do that. And that's crazy. I started to think like, yo, people really doing lockdowns inside. Some people, you don't even want to talk on the phone, bro. You know what I mean? So listen, this is not to ever compare the truest, severest realities that people are truly facing on the inside. But because I see the essence and the value, I try my best to simulate that experience. And most of y'all bitch ass motherfuckers would never do that, because that would mean that, yeah, you would actually have to feel yourself and face your thoughts. You feel me? And a lot of people are running around with their heads cut off, right, acting like, right, because they don't want to face themselves and face some thoughts. And when you face yourself and face your thoughts and then become more aware of how you feel and all these other things, you can then self-direct yourself in a whole different way. So, you know, in that solitary refinement that I put myself in, it was a very interesting journey. Like I said, that mixtape exists. But the key takeaways really stood out and exist, especially in the aftermath. So you get back outside after a week of being inside and isolated, or in solitude, or whatever you want to call it, and just simply seeing trees, seeing other people, all the multiple different variables. For some people it could be shocking, but for me it felt so wonderful. It was like, wow, there's a whole entire world here for you to interact with in the way that you want to, but most people interact with it in a way that's to their own detriment. And in that own detriment, they go back to creating all these excuses as to why they're in a declining state. You have to awaken your mindset, you feel me? Don't see this as like, oh, that's some extreme shit, blah, blah, blah. No, how about you try that? Try sitting with yourself. I've known people that have gone into retreats that haven't spoken. They didn't speak for a week. Silence for a whole week, no words. Can you sit with your thoughts? Right. A lot of people aren't okay with themselves. That's why they continuously drown themselves out in pleasure. When you want to refine yourself and get yourself on a purpose-driven path, which is going to create the higher version of you, the more perfected version of you, the more self-directed and less enslaved to circumstances, the more masterful, self-mastered version of yourself, right? You want to be able to sit with your thoughts, to sit with yourself, to sit in that equanimity that most people simply can't do because they lack that level of discipline or fortitude, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, right? You feel me? Always coming up with these excuses. That's why I'm at the point where it's like, yo, listen, if I see a fat person, listen, you're just entitled as fuck. If you're broke, entitled as fuck. Now, there's different leeways in this situation, but to make money, you have to earn money, right? So you have to do something. To be fat, you have to really just be so gluttonous and all this other shit. I'm not gonna get too deep on that, but we're just gonna talk about the solitary refinement. In that process, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about me. I learned a lot about people. But I know that most people in this world are not able to sit with themselves. And that's their fault. And that is where their biggest weakness is. It's not being able to sit with themselves. So they seek pleasure and they seek distraction from themselves, and they seek to be distracted from their emotions by layering themselves in pleasure, whether it's food, layering themselves in drugs and narcotics, which fucking alcohol, weed, all these different things, because you just simply can't sit with yourself. When you get sober, you have to sit with your emotions, you have to sit with your thoughts, you have to sit with your own energy. And most people don't like their own energy, so they continuously alter their state of consciousness, whether it's by watching entertainment, whether it's by indulging in some food and some drink, whether it's just simple distraction from themselves. So what I did in that solitary refinement phase was not distract myself from myself, to only have myself by myself, so that I can truly get comfortable with myself on a level that most people are extremely afraid of, and that gives me a whole nother level. We just came off of Ramadan. What do you think Ramadan does to people? Right. Ramadan put me on a whole different level. So when you can go into solitary refinement, or for the people that's on the inside, they can go into solitary, you know, do a bid in the shoe, do a bid in the motherfucking in the hole, you know. And then people who can fast, people who can go without food and water and these creature comforts, you think that they're on equal par, on equal levels on the mental and spiritual plane as the individual who simply can't hold themselves back from doing the simplest of things so that they can do things that will get them ahead of themselves? But right, so this is why I always tell you it's mindset training. You feel me? We put ourselves on a whole different level. Why your world is yours, I advise everybody to begin their self-mastery and their discipline process. And your self-mastery and your discipline process is simply a process of solitary refinement. When you enter solitude, that's where your biggest blessings are going to start to come. Elevation and ascension requires a certain degree of solitude. You see what I'm saying? You have to separate yourself from the masses. You have to retract yourself and stop distracting yourself from yourself so you can get on track with yourself. You see what I'm saying? Right. Why your world is yours, consider the vibrations raised. This is just an anecdote from Sheikhy. This is the type of shit that Sheikhy has done to get himself on a whole different level of mental discipline. Right? But we're going to start you out with just giving you some simple nutrition numbers, right? Some macros, some very specific, and it's a very simple workout to do. Can you handle those things? We're not going to ask you to deprive yourself of anything crazy besides the things that literally hold you back and the bullshit thoughts that hold you back. Are you ready to give up the bullshit habits of thoughts that hold you back so that you can get to the next step? Are you ready to stop distracting yourself from yourself so that you can get to the next step? Let's get it. It's grow time. No more time to waste. Consider the vibrations raised. I love y'all so much. Stay tuned for these stories, for the anecdotes, for the wisdom. It's all coming from the heart. Whatever you are, your world is yours.